Anjana here. The first step in landing a job is sending your resume. Your resume should be crafted so well that it stands out. Let's learn the tips from Mrs. Richa Dhar, an executive coach and international trainer. She is a certified master trainer from CAMI US and a competent communicator from Toastmaster International USA. She has international exposure working in Mauritius and Japan. Welcome to Peptalk. What is the new style? How far is it different from the traditional format?
So, Anjana, resume is, of course, the most critical aspect of when you're applying for a job. That's the first thing that an employer sees. And you're absolutely right. It has changed over time from a very chronological format, which used to be there till a few years ago. You start with the with the oldest, and then gradually go chronologically towards what you're doing. Now we have more of a functional format, where you have the freedom as the owner of the resume to restructure it in whichever way, as long as it helps you highlight what you want the employer to notice. So there is a basic thumb rule we call in resume. First half of your first page should give the person reason enough to pick up the phone and call you for the interview. Right? So keeping that thumb rule in mind, that kind of changes the entire format in which you are designing. So first of all, your contact details should be right at the top, so that if they're trying to call you, if they like your profile, they should be able to track you immediately. The other thing that is there, whether you should put a photograph or you should not put a photograph, that's optional. That's absolutely up to you. But if you decide to, my request is always keep it very professional in an absolute neutral background. Do not put your college photograph or a Facebook photograph on it. If you don't have a professional photograph, leave it, right? So that's there. The most important thing after that is, traditionally we have always kept an objective. I seek an opportunity to learn and grow in your organization, that cliched format of, what do you call these objectives. So when I speak with employers, I train the corporates as well when we are working there. One common thing that everyone says, that your objective should give us a line of thought of where you're coming from. So if you don't have a clear thought, you're simply applying for a job, just skip that part. Right? So you don't have to keep an objective. And, a lot of times HRs or people who are interviewing you have seen a lot of resumes. So if you copy pasted it from Google or from Naukri.com or from any website, they will be able to immediately recognize that. So being original, being authentic, and being yourself is the key to a good resume. Right? So start with, if it's your education that's making you eligible for the job, start with that. Start with your most recent qualification. Don't start with your high school. And in case the job profile says only, people with the CGPA of 4.5 out of 5, then mention your CGPA. Under your qualification, mention all the key achievements in that degree. Suppose you're an MBA, your MBA, and then under that, all the achievements that you've had while doing that course, any appreciation that you got, any projects that you did. You can write about your projects after that, right? If you have a work experience, then you can write about that. But I'll recommend anything which is less than 3 months, less than 6 months doesn't really quantify as an experience. That's more like a project.
So when you apply for different companies, is it necessary to prepare different CVs? Do you customize your resume, or like one size doesn't fit all, right?
That's absolutely important, because your resume, what happens, like I said, it's functional now. You're trying to show your eligibility for the job profile, right? So what I'll recommend is that keep your resume and keep the job profile side by side, and see what matches. That should be in the first half of your resume. So if you have a project, summer internship is absolutely similar to the profile. For example, if you've done summer internship and you're applying in a similar company or the same company or similar industry, start with your first line MBA so-and-so, and then, or engineering so-and-so, or BTech, and then your summer internship. Or better still, start with your internship. So what makes you relevant, start with that. Move on to the rest of the path then after that.
Yeah, sometimes there'll be dual specializations, or you have done some short-term certifications. So how do you present those in your CV, like, so that they are not overlooked? So again, it's the same rule, right?
Yeah.
The job and the profile and the on your qualification.
So the two questions you just asked, one is dual specialization, the other is certifications. I'll take them one by one. So for dual specialization, see, dual specialization is in college. Outside of college, it doesn't matter. If I am hiring someone for, let's say, a sales and marketing job, so whether you have studied finance with it or HR with it, I don't mind. I mean, I am not interested in that. I want to know if HR, if sales was your specialization, how good you are in, how in-depth knowledge you have, how much experience you've garnered. So while writing your MBA, or please don't write dual specialization. Look at the job profile. Like I said, job profile and resume. If the job profile is for HR, you decided to apply for HR, write MBA HR, which is true because you have dual specialization with equal percentage of importance, right? Where it becomes difficult is to explain is if you are applying for an HR profile, but your internship is in sales and marketing. Now that's where the dichotomy comes in and becomes very difficult to explain. In that scenario, what I'll recommend is do some additional projects in HR, or do like we're talking now, we'll come to the certification, do some certifications in HR and start your resume with certifications, qualifications, MBA HR, then your certifications. Then your summer internship will be just a project. Don't highlight it separately as a summer internship. Let it be a project that you did during your master's, right? And try and highlight your research work or your projects or assignments that you've done in HR. So I'm just giving these as an example, but you can customize it to a great extent. Absolutely. And you should.
Okay. So, what are the factors that make a good resume? Like, how can you make your resume attractive?
First of all, use very specific rather than generic information. Create a fact-based resume. Be very, everything on your resume should be handpicked from your profile. Right. So sometimes to just make the achievements column bigger, people write all, high school achievements and school achievements and everything, first in Rangoli competition, singing competition. These are irrelevant, as far as your professional section is concerned. Stick to your projects. Being appreciated in your summer internship is an achievement. Working on 2 extra projects in your master's or in your bachelor's is an achievement. So put them through that. If you have a lot of achievements, curricular, co-curricular, put them in a separate section. Otherwise, when you're writing qualifications, write them under your achievements, right under that. So, the idea is the person reading your resume should not be going from page to page and looking for the information. It should be readily available. So when he's reading about your qualification, immediately under that bullet points your achievements in that section are. Another thing is it's a resume, not a CV, and it's very important to understand the difference. A CV is more for research. We go in detail, whereas a resume is something where you're gonna preferably not more than 2 pages. I'll always recommend 1 page if you're a fresher. We are yet to achieve things in life, so 1 page is usually more than sufficient. But if you've done a lot of internships, you have some prior experience, and you feel like the material is going to, spill over to the second page, don't go beyond 2 pages. Couple of things you should keep in mind is use active rather than passive tense. So it was done by, don't write like that. It's so basically try to be more in active form. Use action verbs. When I say action words, I'm talking about words like accomplished this, organized the college fest, or during my last work, you can say increase the sales by 10%. So use these words to start rather than I or we. Use these action verbs. So these small things, plus I can't pay enough, emphasis on editing your resume. There shouldn't be a spelling mistake. There shouldn't be a punctuation mistake. So these small things go a long way in creating a positive impression.
Just as you told about posting your picture also, so always it should be the recent one. And anything else to consider while selecting this picture?
Have a colored picture. Have a nice haircut done. Just the picture should look like exactly what you will appear in the interview room to be. Don't put your high school picture, don't put your college entrance picture. Click a nice, decent picture and put that up there. Something which is, and another thing is put your resume in a PDF format so that your formatting doesn't change when you send it across to somebody. Sometimes when you add a picture, the formatting changes. So be very careful on that.
So it is better to edit your resume each time you send it.
Absolutely.
To a company, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So again, coming to objective statement, you told me that it is not necessary always.
Yes, traditionally we've always written objectives, and traditionally we have written very cliched objectives. But now organizations, when the millennials are going into the market, the organizations are looking for somebody who's very clear on purpose. What you want from your life, what you want from this job, what do you bring to the table. So even a simple sentence like seeking an opportunity to work as, let's say, a relationship manager, or in seeking an opportunity in the field of sales and marketing, that in itself can be a very simple statement. Good enough. You are very clear. But don't put very cliched statements and philosophical ideas, because sometimes, in some interviews where I have been, people have been asked to explain their objective. It's very fancy, and you can we just asked, okay, what does it mean? And the person had no clue. They couldn't explain it. So I'll always recommend, don't put anything on your resume which you cannot back with proof, which you cannot explain, right? So when you write an objective, be very crisp and clear. And it's not even important. When you're applying for a job, you can start with your key achievements. Yeah.
Okay. So again, positioning of the educational qualification work experience. So for freshers, of course, it is the latest educational qualification that we have. And regarding the for those who can place their work experience, so is it always the latest job or qualification at the top, or it is flexible?
It's always the latest. It's always the latest. Unless and until there is another profile or any work or project that you've done which is more relevant to this particular.
Yeah.
That's why I said functional, not chronological. So if it's a normal scenario, you just start with what's the latest. But if there is something which is really, really relevant to this profile, so you don't want that to be missed in the clutter, you want to start with that. So you can start with that, but always keep very specific, finish and start time of your jobs or your qualifications. Yeah.
Okay, and also we add a reference, How do you select that? You need to add one or two persons, right? From your previous.
You don't need to volunteer that information. Companies will ask for it. When they ask, don't make that as a part of your format of your resume. The resume doesn't need to have what do you call the references. Usually, if you're shortlisted or if you're selected, the HR will send you a detailed form for your personal information. They will ask for your references. A lot of the organizations, do ref check. They do reference check. Somebody will call up if you're a fresher, you will have a faculty's reference, or if you're a work experience person, a colleague or a senior. So they will call them up and do a ref check. So always recommended, let your references know you've given their name. And don't volunteer that information, wait for the employer to ask for it.
Okay. So is there anything else to be considered, Richa? These are my questions. You have been in this field for so many years. So did anything else come to your mind that someone should know who is preparing his resume, should be aware of, or did we cover everything?
We covered most of it, just a couple of do's and don'ts, or I'll say statutory warnings, which I like to give over the years, but I've seen. Don't fake anything on your resume. Because it becomes very difficult to quantify and justify in an interview room, because the people who are sitting across the board have an experience and they're able to see through just by one or two questions whether you've done it or not. If you have been a player in the cricket team, please don't write I was the captain of the cricket team. Right. So because what happens is that it's I know it's very minute, but these things go on to talk a lot about how you're positioning yourself, your integrity, because a lot of things are being evaluated in an interview, not simply your qualifications and your technical knowledge, your soft skills, your integrity, your personality, your confidence. Interests is a section we didn't speak about. I'll recommend always have an interest section in the end, and write interests that you really have. Do not write reading if you don't like to read. Right. So if you like watching cricket, like watching cricket. So
Yes,
write interest sections.
previously, whenever we have to say about the hobbies, reading is something that everybody says, even they read or not, right?
So what happens is sometimes person sitting across the table might have a very similar interest.
Yeah.
Right. So, like I said, it's a reflection of who you are. And see, the importance of your CV is only till the time you get the interview call. Or maybe the first question, tell me something about yourself. Or the first round of interview. After that, CV is just a tool, an aid. Rest they are talking to you. Right. So make sure that you've studied your resume very well. Make sure when you write an interest section, if there are certain achievements and interest, also mention them, right? So if you have been a state level player, you've been a college captain, or you have won some accolades in your singing or dancing, mention them. Sometimes that is something that strikes the chord with the interviewer in the interview.
Yeah, even
Uh,
if it is not directly connected to the position that you're looking to, right?
Absolutely. Companies are looking for an individual. You're
Yeah.
not going to be a computer or a machine who's going to come and sit at the table and work. They're looking for a wholesome personality. And it's good to have interests, but interests which you can validate, which are real basically. The other couple of things that I'll just recommend is when you are designing your resume, like I said, that make sure there is no spelling mistake, right? Be consistent in your formatting. And the most important thing is that do not mention your gender or age unless and at last, right? So that is again something some people, I have seen even passport numbers on resumes. So yeah, I know it sounds a little odd and funny, though it's very rare. So after seeing thousands of resumes, I'll say when it comes to your personal information, your name, an address on which if they have to, an address which is your address where you can be contacted or where you can be found, your permanent address, and your phone number, preferably maybe a backup number if you have, right? But your own personal mobile number, that's what is preferred now. Right. This should be right at the top, and your email ID. Just a suggestion here that email IDs should be very professional. So, for example, if my name is Richa Dhar, I would rather have richadhar@gmail.com. Do not write cool dude at yahoo.com or and there are these email IDs which are there because sometimes when you're just starting as a fresher and you for the first time you're applying for a job, they end up writing those email IDs. So they're having really funny email IDs that I've seen, superhuman first, and then there's a random number .88, and we have asked in the interview, what is this 88? Is it your birth year? Is it your, and then it's a random number. So make it something which is very simple and looks professional. That's about
Yeah, these are the minor things that say a lot about you, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
So these are the things you should keep in mind, and just take your resume as as a representative who's going there to meet the people before you. So your impression of them will be based on that. And just remember that first half of your resume should have everything that they need to know to call you for that job interview.
Okay, Richa. So I think that's it. Appreciate you joining.